So once you've been able to move the light around and put the camera where you want it, let's talk about making an animation. So if I look through the camera, you can see that I'm on the green axis. That makes that a little easier with some of the numbers. And my light is close enough that it casts some light onto the house. I'll play with the global illumination here in just a minute, but I want to get some keyframes. Let's just work our way down this list, taking a look first at the render properties. So rendering the background as transparent is here under film. And we just want to click that little checkbox so we have the checkerboard. That's going to be very important for later on. Our first couple of videos, it may fill those in, but you want to always have that checked. Next, we're going to go down to this section where we've got the resolution. By default, it's 1920 by 1080 and 100%. But until we're ready to do a final render and spend all of that time, it pays to lower that to something like 20%. That means that our results for right now are going to be pretty pixelated, but it will happen quickly. 30 frames per second is our standard for this class. And right now, it goes to 250 frames. You do have a little timeline here at the bottom. And when I change this to 90, we're just going to do a quick 3-second video. You can see that the timeline is down there. Now, the other big thing here is, where is the output going to go? By default, it goes to the C drive in a folder called TMP for temp. And that's not a good place for everything to be dumped. We want to have more control over that. So let's go to Documents. Let's go to our SketchUp project folder, and you can see that I have a folder here called Output. That way, anything that I put out from a program is going to be found in there. Now, what I like to do is make a folder where the file goes into, because later on, it's actually going to be 90 individual pictures. So having a folder with that in there. And you'll also notice that I've put some information in the name. So let me go ahead and make a new one. So where do you do that? Well, right here. There's the new folder, 220127, new simple house. And I'm going to do a 90 frames and 20%. So when I do a much higher quality, I'll know it just by looking at the folder name. Once I've done that, I do need to go into the folder and say, this is where I want everything to go, and click Accept. It should never say TMP there. You got to know where your stuff is when you're done. Exporting as a PNG is going to be for later. Right now, we just want a simple video, so choose FFmpeg video right there. Notice there is no RGBA, so we're not going to actually have the transparency at first. And then with encoding, one more thing to check, just make it H264. That's that nice compressed but high quality video. There's a few other things we could mess with, but that's enough for right now. So we've got the resolution, how many frames and frames per second, and where it's going to go. That's what's important. Now, this isn't the best screen to do our animation on. There's a better one. They've made a workspace called Animation that shows us what we see through the camera, our main viewer window right here where we can look at the whole thing, and then here's our timeline. So I'm going to grab the end of the scroll bar just like in Premiere, and I'm going to zoom in so I can really see my 90 frames right here. I'm ready to start keyframing. So right here at 0, first frame, we're going to see this house. Well, it's not the best view to start looking at a house, is it? So let's make a change there. I'm going to click on SketchUp in my outliner, and you can see it's at the very center and nothing is rotated. So I'm going to rotate this until I can see the house through the camera in a little bit better view. And it is possible to change this to the full rendered view so you can tell what the light is going to do for it. You can do the same here, unless your computer really starts lagging. So this to me is a better starting place. Let's take a look at that. So that's minus 56 degrees. Let's stay with the positive numbers and go around the other way until we have a nice angle on the house. And that's 298. Let's just make it nice round number, 300 degrees. So that's going to be our starting number of degrees. Let's right click on that and insert a keyframe so it knows to start at the beginning of the video with the house looking like this. Now we want it to spin a full 360 degrees at the end of the video. So we can actually jump all the way to the end of our timeline. You can grab this and move it in that space as well, but here's our jumpers for keyframes, and you can actually play it forward or backwards, but of course there's no second keyframe. So let's go set one. So if I want 360, I'm going to add 360 plus 300. It's going to go to 660 degrees. And it looks exactly the same because it's completely revolved one time, 360. Let's insert keyframe there and press play. See what we have. So it happens very quickly. It's just 3 seconds for it to get all the way around. But that gives us a view of every side of our house, just as a test to learn how to set keyframes. Okay. Now I'm looking at this and those shadows are really, really dark. So I am going to go here and change my background strength and bring it up. Not too much, again, just enough to give me a little bit more while I can still see the shadows, and maybe check it at different points to see how that lighting is going to do. Looks pretty good. Let's save this file. So File, let's do our external data. I've already told it to pack those up. I'm going to save this Blender file in here with today's date, 27. And this one, right now, it's set up with a simple house. And it's going to be 90 frames. Now I'm going to change the percentages on my final output. So it's really enough to just go ahead and save that in my Blender folder. Is that where I am? Let me go up one. Yep, in Blender. See my other blend files there. All right, just in case something crashes, I can get back to this point. Now I'm going to go to my render options and say render animation. And I've got this little render preview. It's going to look a lot like this, of course. And it's not going to change anything here. See how quickly it's going? I'll be done here in just a second. And it's actually creating that file in that folder. If there's a file there, we should be able to go to Render and view the animation, and it'll pull up and actually play the video for us. It has its own built-in player, so we can see it spin around very quickly, but it's well lit, and we can see every angle. It has a good starting point and ending point, and the only problem is it's pretty pixelated, but it didn't take long to create. Once you know, like, okay, that's what I want. I want a high quality version of that. Some simple changes. Let's go back here and bring that up to 100% and go down to the output. And this time, see, it made that little video there. We need to rename that. I'm going to go up, make another folder, and this time 220127. This is our new simple house, 90 frames, 100%. Don't use the percent symbols. That's one thing I need to emphasize. It really messes with file names and folder names. So just spell it out. Going to go in there and let's see if we can give it a name. I forgot how. Let's see, 220127, simple house spin. 100%, 3 seconds. Let's see if it makes a video with that name. And render animation. Control F12 is the keyboard shortcut, but you'll notice that it goes much, much slower. It's a lot more pixels for it to calculate. So we'll see what that looks like when we get done. And here's that 3 seconds looping in a regular video player. And it doesn't look half bad. Just very, very fast. We'll do another version in just a bit.